Do you ever wonder what's so great about comfort food? Like, why do we crave it? Why does it make us feel so good? And more importantly, why do these foods make us feel calmer and more at ease? Well, today we're going to cover the psychological, physiological, and evolutionary component behind the science of comfort foods. Hi, I'm Jess. I'm a clinical nutritionist, and this channel is all about optimizing your diet and lifestyle for better mental health. And today I thought we would talk about something that's really just fun to learn about. But before we dive into the science of comfort food, we should probably define what exactly comfort food is, because it's kind of a term that just gets thrown around a lot, but maybe we don't know if our X, Y, or Z definition of foods fit into this category. According to Wikipedia, comfort food is a food that provides a nostalgic or sentimental value to someone and may be characterized by its high caloric nature associated with childhood or home cooking. Cambridge Dictionary defines it as the type of food that people eat when they are sad or worried, often sweet food or food that people ate as children. And Oxford Languages claims that it's food that provides consolation or a feeling of well-being, typically with a high sugar or other carbohydrate content, and is associated with childhood or home cooking. So examples of this would be something like mac and cheese. This is the #1 food that came up in the search results for Google. Maybe it's mashed potatoes, maybe it's pizza, maybe it's sweeter foods like cookies, cakes, pies, etc. Obviously, there's going to be some cultural differences with these foods. These are the Americanized Google search, but we'll get into that when we talk about the psychology. The psychological component of comfort food explores how foods have the power to evoke specific feelings, memories, and psychological responses, contributing to a sense of comfort. There are some key factors here when we consider the various aspects of comfort food. The first one being nostalgia and familiarity. Comfort foods often have a deep root in nostalgia. Certain foods are associated with positive memories from childhood or significant life events. Number 2 is cultural significance. Different cultures have various comfort foods that carry significant meaning and symbolism. Comfort foods are often tied to these social rituals, such as family gatherings, celebrations, or certain holidays. And number 3, emotional regulation and coping. Comfort foods are frequently used as a form of emotional regulation and are closely linked to coping mechanisms. The act of consuming these foods triggers a psychological response, likely due to some of the associations that we've mentioned, creating a temporary emotional escape or relief from negative feelings. In addition to the stress relief we may physiologically receive as well. So let's dive into that. But before we do, if you're getting value out of this video so far, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more content like this. So a huge component of comfort food's role in stress relief is biological. Meaning, many times when we eat these foods, we feel calmer because of the impact these foods are having on both our neurotransmitters and our stress hormones. So why exactly do these foods have this type of effect? Well, if we go back to the 3 definitions of comfort foods we put up in the beginning, in addition to all these foods having a memory association, they are often classified as being highly caloric, high in carbohydrates, and additionally sometimes also high in sugar. Carbohydrates normally increase the levels of our neurotransmitter serotonin, which is our neurotransmitter that not only makes us feel happy, but is also our neurotransmitter that makes us feel calm and at peace. Carbohydrates mainly have this effect because of its relationship with the amino acid L-tryptophan. See, serotonin is synthesized from the amino acid L-tryptophan, and carbohydrates aid in the transportation of tryptophan across the blood-brain barrier, leading to increased serotonin levels. Starchy foods also often decrease our stress hormone cortisol, which is a steroid hormone produced by the adrenal glands in response to stress. So much so that several studies show that people often feel less depressed, anxious, and irritable after consuming high carbohydrate-rich foods. So carbohydrates provide us with a sense of calm and peace, and if the comfort food additionally happens to contain sugar, then we are also triggering dopamine, which is the neurotransmitter that activates the brain's reward pathways. Research suggests that the combination of sugar and caloric content in sugar-rich foods can lead to a more pronounced release of dopamine compared to other tastes in foods. The associative learning not only reinforces the desire for sweet foods, but the anticipation of high sugar foods alone can actually activate this reward pathway. So when we have the anticipation and then the consumption of these foods, a reward feedback is created that then becomes ingrained in memory. So we talked about comfort foods being high in carbs and potentially being high in sugar as well. And the combination of these two will pretty much guarantee that they are also high in calories. And this brings us to the next point, which is the evolutionary aspect of comfort food. The evolutionary aspect of comfort foods and the brain's response to high caloric foods could be traced back to our ancestors' survival instincts and the challenges they faced in obtaining and storing energy. The ability to efficiently store excess energy in the form of fat allowed individuals to endure periods of food scarcity. The brain's reward system, particularly the release of dopamine in response to pleasurable stimuli, is closely linked to evolutionary survival mechanisms. So as we just learned, consuming high-calorie food triggers a strong dopamine response, reinforcing the behaviors of seeking out and consuming energy-dense foods. In addition to this, the brain's ability to form strong memories related to food consumption is an adaptive trait as well. Basically, the preference for these foods is deeply ingrained in our biology as a result of evolutionary pressures. So if you are someone, for example, who is maybe an emotional eater and really drawn to these comfort foods, first off, please have some grace for yourself. Hopefully you understand now how there's many factors that go into these foods and our desire for them that's about more than just sheer willpower. Second, while we want to have grace for ourselves, we also want to recognize and accept the fact that these types of foods were actually not meant to be consumed every day. And doing so in our modern society is one of the main dietary patterns that leads to conditions like insulin resistance and maybe eventually diabetes. So, is there such a thing as practical tips for enjoying comfort foods? 100% yes there is, and we're gonna go through a few of them. Number one is to embrace celebrations. If you're enjoying a comfort food because it's a special occasion, a holiday celebration that doesn't happen all the time, then awesome, embrace it. Having one day of indulgence is not gonna make you insulin resistant or a diabetic, so maybe you have certain things or dishes that you make for the holiday. For example, every single year for Thanksgiving, I make this cashew cheesecake. People really love it, it's a hit, but I literally only make it once a year, and after that, I know I'm not gonna see that thing for another year. Number two is to find alternative or replacement ingredients for some of your maybe more commonly consumed comfort food products. For example, we may have our things that we turn to on a Friday or Saturday night or when we're sad, whether that's like pizza or ice cream. I give you those examples because those are some of my favorites. And while I used to make my own pizza crusts, like I'm pretty lazy these days and that just doesn't really sound that entertaining. So I absolutely love these frozen pizza crusts, and I will use something like this, throw on a few toppings, whether that's like my goat cheese. I personally like a lot of vegetables on my pizza, and this is something that I like to do like once a month or so. But even if I had a pizza craving more than once a month, I could totally have this and really not be that concerned about it. If you want a great place for getting some alternative ingredients or products that you can potentially use so that you don't have to make everything from scratch, then check out Thrive Market. A link will be in the description below. And a side note on number 2 is if you're gonna be the kind of person that argues like, it's just not the same, like Jess's grain-free goat cheese pizza just isn't the same. Well, yeah, of course it's not the same. Remember that comparisons are the thief of joy. Just because it's not the same doesn't mean that it's not 100% delicious. I actually think that mine tastes better. And the third tip, I believe, is the most important of them all, and that is to be very wary of the food industry and their ability to create and market foods that fit into these comfort food categories, because they have a deep understanding of food science, flavor preference, all of the psychological factors that we went over today, and they use this knowledge to create foods that are highly addictive. You are much better off creating some version of something on your own, like we just discussed. You'll not only appreciate it more, but you'll stop giving your power away to these systems, which will likely shift you out of victim mentality and into the realization that your choices have the biggest impact on your health. If you enjoyed this video, then let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite comfort food? And if you care to share, maybe a little bit about why. And I will see you in the next one.